The following is intended for informational purposes only. It is intended to supplement classroom training and documentation. It should not be relied on as a replacement or substitute for classroom training with a live expert instructor. This workshop uses ProcessFlow to create a custom registration form. This example registration form is for training purposes only. In no way does it replace the existing base registration form. Welcome to lesson 10 of this config tools class. Here we will be looking at data areas and how they play their part. We will see that data areas are used in a few different ways. They're used to help business objects when we want to reuse them and to rearrange the user interface. They are useful, helpful. If we want to also extend some base business object, base functionality, base business object, we can use an extended data area. We'll be looking at that too. And we will obviously be seeing all this within the context of the registration form that we're building along, and we'll see how we can arrange the sections for the business registration form slightly different than the individual registration form by once they are already collected within the data areas. Arranged our BOs so that instead of having individual elements directly on the BO, but put them all in data areas. If you look at the schema now, you will see that it looks the same. We have a main section, an address and ID section, and we have the action information from framework. But within the main and address and ID, you will see that each one of these now is a data area. Previously we had a data area for address. Now we have them for main and ID as well. All of them have their own separate data areas. The data area includes all the elements that we are going to include within the section. The section information is defined directly on the actual BO. So in other words, we make a little bit of a separation between the display and the rules about the sections which we directly put on the BO and the actual elements which we put into data areas. So we have a data area here for main, and underneath there we have all the different elements. So when I look at the schema designer, it looks basically as it did previously, but if I look on the source view, you will see that it's much cleaner and simpler, and it has a start and end sections, and inside we include a data area. This one is the main one, this one is the address, and this is the ID. And the rules about when and how we display are defined in the section headers. So for example, here we will only show the main section on the display map and not on the maintenance map. And here, as we've seen previously for address, we only show the address if in fact the address type is filled in on the admin registration form type. So the rules about showing this, the rules about showing the particular sections are defined on the BO, but the actual data elements are found within the actual data areas. Okay, so that's the parent BO. Now, we would like to look at now the child BOs, and the standard way that we have been working with the child BO. If we start with the individual registration form, what we have been doing is including the parent BO, and then we have all the data elements related to the parent BO, and then we've added in the name. And here again, the name I have put into a data area. This is a section, and underneath the section I have a data area for the individual names. Now, one of the benefits of using data areas, if we actually would like to see what is the benefit of doing this using data areas, the answer basically is, well, reusability. I can have all different elements in one data area and then reuse it at different places where I want. One other actual benefit is that I can also, in this particular example, rearrange the interface a little easier if I work with data areas. Let me explain that better by looking at the example of the actual registration form for this particular individual registration form. You will see that if I look at the individual registration form, the name section is defined at the end. I can't define the name section between address and ID. I have to either put it at the bottom or the top, and the reason for that is because the way I've worked with the BO, with this child BO, is that I'm using the parent BO and doing an include for the parent. So if I do an include for the parent, I get all these sections automatically, and then I can add my name in. I can add my name in the beginning or the end. I can take this particular section over here, and if I want, I can move it above the include BO, or as it is at the moment, below it. I can't move it within the actual sections of the parent, obviously, because I'm using the include BO. However, what happens if I actually want to have a different format where let's say I would like to have the main section and then followed by the name and then the address? I don't have a way of doing it this way. But by using data areas, and you don't have to do it using data areas, but it makes it a little cleaner and easier, you could actually, instead of using the include parent BO, you can actually just, instead of including the BO, just include the data areas and in the order that you want. Let me show you that, because I've done that for the business registration form. If I have a look at the business registration form, here I haven't used the include BO, but in fact it's easier to see it when I look at the actual data this way. Here I've actually used the different data areas that I have on the parent, and I haven't used it in include BO. And then I've decided to actually start with my main section and follow it by my business name section and then my address and so on, so that the result is that I have the main first, then the business, and the address and ID. And I've been able to rearrange my sections. I have to include all the data from my parent, but I'm able to pick and choose the order making it a little easier by the fact that I've separated them into data areas and therefore decided to put the sections in a different order. So this is one of the also benefits. It's not a direct benefit of data areas, but you could see that once you start arranging your data using data areas, it's easier to rearrange things. I mentioned already that there is a usability, just simply if I want to reuse a piece of data elements in different places, so that's clearly an advantage. But this is another slightly more subtle benefit. I'm able to actually rearrange my BO, in this case the child BO, without needing to actually just include the parent in the order that the parent has it. So if I actually now create a new process flow, new registration form, but this time I'm going to use the business one, you will see that the ordering, as I've just shown you in the BO, is different than the individual one. So the business name now is on top. You don't see anything very much over here. You don't actually see now the example, the address is actually hidden because I took off the address type on the admin, but you can see that I can rearrange it how I want. Okay, so that is a further benefit that I have for data areas that I wanted to show you. I also want to show you one of the other powerful aspects of data areas, and that is that you are able to extend a data area, add in new elements without needing to actually change the underlying BO. What do I mean by that? Let's take the example of the individual registration form. Let's go back to the individual registration form. And you will see that in the schema, as we saw before, we have a name section, and the name section has prefix first name and last name. Now let's go to that data area. Now let's say I would like to add into the individual registration form a suffix field, a suffix, and let's say a middle name, which I don't have currently in this particular data area. So one option is to create another data area with those elements in order to actually add them directly in. But there's another method of doing that, and that without actually changing or doing anything to this particular data area at all, and that is use something called an extended data area. How do you use an extended data area? Let me show you. The way you do it is to, and I already have one over here. I have an extended one I just created, and the concept is that you can add in and extend a different data area. In this case, I'm going to extend my registration form data area, and we'll see what elements we have underneath. And the elements I've added in is suffix and middle name. I've only defined here in the extension the suffix and middle name, but because I've actually defined the extended data area field to be the individual registration form name, as a result of that, any time that I use this particular data area, it will be automatically extended with those elements that I have defined here. Okay, so even though on this extended data area you don't see any of the elements, you only see the elements of the prefix first name last name. Nonetheless, whenever I use this, automatically it will actually see whether it has been extended, and if it has been extended, it will add in those elements. Now this is very powerful if you, let's say, have a base BO which you cannot change because it's part of product, but you want to add in new elements as a result. You can do so without actually needing to actually change the underlying base BO or copy it. And as we know, we can't actually change base BOs. They are C, in our case, they are C1. They are part of the product. They are not able to be changed. Nonetheless, you can always extend it in this format if they have a data area. So already, if I actually look at this particular data area, look at the display map, you will see that it's already included in here is the suffix and the middle name, even though in the schema over here I don't see those elements. I don't see the elements. Why? Because those elements actually come the extended data area. And as you can imagine, you could only have one extended data area for every parent data area, because then it would be unclear which part of the data to take. So you can only extend it by one extension. Now, as a result of that, now if I actually use look at what happens without changing anything of the underlying BO. I've only just gone to that data area, added in the middle name and the suffix, and I create a new individual registration form. You'll see that the suffix and middle name is already defined here. Okay, even though, as I tried to point out, this is you can't see it clearly in the actual underlying BO. If I go back to the BO of the individual registration form, so I'm over here, I don't see this middle name and last name defined, because here I'm only defining the actual parent data area, individual registration form name. But because it has been extended, even though I don't see it here, it will actually show those two added elements that I added in. So what have we learned in this lesson? We've learned about the benefits of data areas. Reusability. We've seen that if you arrange your common functionality under a data area, you can then easily use that data area in multiple business objects. You can rearrange your user interface easily by arranging your sections in different data areas, and then you just have to move around the data areas. You have to remember, if you do that, that the command in your BO is include data area instead of the include BO. And we've also seen the power of extending a data area, and it has quite a lot of power that you're able to actually extend a base functionality, a base business object, without needing to actually make any customization, by going to the data area and extending it, and then automatically the extension will be seen in the base business object.